This is Wayward Renegade Witches blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done. Of course, go to the Wayward Renegade website. And of course, go to waywardrenegadewitchesblog.org. See the energies that are there. The 101 monthly lessons will start on the 16th. However, as you already know, I do the 101's lessons that I work with individuals very closely with various energies and so on. But understand that work is separate from 101's. Okay, understand what that is and understand that that is at a different cost. Okay, but you already know that Wayward is about that revenge, redemption, and responsibility, and that motherfucking spell work. And as we already know, that art is occultism. Occultism is a motherfucking art. And I just want to get right into something. I noticed that somebody in my comments wrote that Black history is over till further notice. You're absolutely right. It is canceled until further notice, because there's some things I have fucking questions about, and I can't be involved in something where I'm in confusion. Okay? And when there's confusion, of course, there's a lie. However, I just kind of want to talk about some things in people and in language, because remember my last video, I was talking a lot about language and how language is basically of different type of energies, meaning a different dialects, different people putting energies together. And then Black people are judged based off of a language and understanding and comprehension. Okay? And then the ones that do understand the comprehension, do you really understand the comprehension of language? Considering it is a mixture of French, Latin, Greek, all of that. They create words out of shit that you don't even understand. Okay? That is spell work within itself. That's why I always talk about fire and air language, and you have to listen to people. For real. And I cracked up because in my last video, I was talking about the energies of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And I said that we are moving out of the sixth, as they say, the sixth seal or the sixth dimension into the seventh dimension. Then of course you have your Bible thumping hoes that, you know, want to come in and say, no, it is this, it is that. I don't give a fuck what you think it is, because that's in your mind. That's people fucking problem. That's why I tell my people who are in school, who are in studying, don't get frustrated when you're reading journals, when you're reading certain type of references and so on. It doesn't mean that those people who wrote that energy are smarter than you, or you don't understand the vocabulary of it or the language. Understand, you are walking in the minds of these human beings. If I'm up here and I'm a mathematician and I'm putting shit up in the book, you're in my mind and I have to decode you. They make you feel stupid for not decoding things that's in their fucking minds. Walk slowly and understand that we are all different type of humans, and we have different type of studies. That's part of the reason why I haven't written a book. To be honest with you, it's easier for me to write a book more than ever. All I have to do is go on AI and have it do it for me. I ain't got to do shit. But do I want you walking in my motherfucking mind? Don't worry. In the next probably 20 years, they save all these videos and put out a book. And I hope my sons or whatever sue the fuck out the motherfuckers. That's why there are debates, because people try to decode other people, what's in their heads. And when I get to seeing people talking about Yah and Yahweh and all that energy, the hybrid Hebrew language, I'm going to ask questions. Because in reality, if we were really studying the Bible and you want to lead back into the Old Testament, then why are white people still living? I'm not being rude. I'm not being disrespectful. Why are those white immigrants still living? Black people. If you want to talk about the Yah and the Yeh and the Jehovah and the Daniels, El, God, then why aren't white people dead in the Old Testament? If you're saying we are in the Old Testament, then why aren't you killing white people and their firstborn as they should die? Because according to the Old Testament, if someone smites you, you're supposed to fuck them up, right? Revenge and redemption and responsibility. We're just talking. Because according to the Bible, and if white people are following the Bible, then according to the law, then they should be dead. And they know this. That's why they had to put in the Bible for you to get slapped on one side, slapped on the other side, and slapped on the third side. That's why they created all this energy within the Bible so you could be passive. That's why they created part of the civil rights movement for it to be a passive type of energy with no aggression. But in reality, in the Old Testament, all these white folks are supposed to get striked. And then you have the honorary white people who also supposed to be striked. But we are black people. We are too highbred to understand the language. Because you have other people coming in, decoding it in their own form. And they want to check you on your decoding. Well, on my decoding, all white people should be dead. And their children. And their descendants. That means if I'm under King David, I'm supposed to stop it at Saul's daughter. I'm supposed to be in the likeness of God and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. That means I should be like Moses. That means I should be bringing in the locusts. Right? Because God technically give black people the authority. If we under this God, right? The God in the Old Testament give black people the authority to kill white people. And kill anything that crosses us. This is not hate. We just talking the Bible. If we decode it and translate it. But the immigrant white people recreated it and put little energies in there to lock and suppress the truth that we should be fucking up people. So while we out here trying to disagree, talking about a Yah and a Yay and a Yo and a Woo, no, you need to understand the decoding. If you want to be in the Old Testament, then you need to be fucking up these people out here in the fucking Old Testament. Because remember, that's why God created this Jesus person, right? To calm shit down. But Deuteronomy 28, when it talks about us, when it talks about even what is it also, was it Ham and all that shit? No, that's because we're in trouble because we didn't follow God's will. Because God was telling us if someone do certain things to us and they're not following the energies of God, we're supposed to kill them dead. There is no love. There is no forgiveness. That love shit came in the New Testament, love and light. And we're not even practicing Jesus right, because we're supposed to go to hell with Jesus. When Jesus supposedly died, he went to hell first. Then came back up in the heavens. The heavens is the earth. Because remember how they trick us with words again? And I was listening to this shit. How they said the clouds are in the sky, but on earth is fog. But in reality, the same clouds in the sky are the same clouds on earth. It's just it's just that they tricked us and said fog, but it's really clouds. And y'all up there looking in the heavens, and that nigga came from hell and jumped right on earth. What? Yo, Jesus. So when we hollering Jesus, we supposed to be Jesus of the hell. Not the Jesus of the earth in the heavens. It's above your pay grade. You people out here be cracking me up talking about it's a sin to practice ancestral. You don't look at ancestors. You don't pull your ancestors. That's a sin. That's demons. But you niggas up in that Bible praising all of their ancestors, those Hebrews and Jews and Gentiles and whatever you guys want to call them. You breaking your neck to be Daniel. You praising Daniel. You don't think those are ancestors? That's their ancestors. And then set up and stole the identity of our melanated people. Mixed up everything. The fuck? Don't let me have a church. Even though I do have my ministry shit. Y'all be mad. And you'll be confused. And my church will be on Friday and Saturday. And I've been and talked about the same fucking person three different ways, and you'll be confused. Nah, decode, niggas. Some of you people be like, oh my God, she's speaking hate. She didn't sat up and said kill all white people. No, I'm just saying. If we feel that they smited us, God gave us the authority. All these white people and these principalities and these elitists and these nobles and all these people follow the Bible. How come we're not? We haven't followed a word of it. That's why we're in this situation that we're in. I cracks up when I hear all these white people talk about all these crucifixions and pentagrams and all of this shit, and you get all of this energy talk about, oh my God, the pentagram, but it comes from melanated energy. They've been throwing up all of those energies, all those signs, and practicing those works. And now you have these Italian philosophers that, because we don't look at the Italian philosophers. We'll sit and look at the Greek philosophers and all the rest of these people. Mid-century, we don't study these Catholic motherfuckers. Italians are fucking occultists, and they stole a whole lot of energies from indigenous people, the African people, if we want to call it. They stole so much shit. We're in confusion. That's why Black history need to be put on the shelf until further notice. Black women, we are supposed to practice dark arts. The fuck? Crazy bitches. That's why you're supposed to do your own fucking work. I have a spiritual constituents. Wait a minute, let me say this. She went through hell of a lot to get her fucking PhD. They out here fucking around with your PhDs. They done canceled whole departments, whole research, shutting down schools in the middle of people getting their fucking PhDs because they want to limit PhDs, because they want to limit research and knowledge. So you have to create your own honorary PhD now. You have to look outside of America, look outside of the world. Do you understand the one of my spiritual constituents, my people that I work with, and I talk about her a lot, and I said this, her advisor was the mayor's of New York's father. And he was trying to stop her from getting her PhD. He was trying to clown on her dissertation. That's who in the fuck you have running New York? What degree does that mayor of New York have? We need to see what's going on here. And is that really his degree? They're trying to stop you from receiving knowledge. In a minute, you're going to be unable to even get a master's degree. But in my opinion, you're going to have to look outside of the United States. And what's going to start happening is the schools, you're going to start applying abroad. And you may not can get there. Some of you be like, I can't afford to get there. But you're going to have hybrid classes, Zoom classes. That's what that pandemic was about. To how can we educate you and you don't come to this country? You go get accepted in a school in Korea. International education, right? And then they'll pay for you to come when you need to come. I had somebody saying silly shit in my comments talking about, well, I didn't believe this, what you said, and I don't agree with 40% of what you say. I don't give a fuck. You should always believe in yourself. But I cracked up. And I think the person talked about something about some aliens, and they had to go research Area 51 and found that I was right. What the fuck you talk about? Area 51 that's fake as fuck. Now I know you won't cap shit. That is sensationalism. Sensationalism. See? sensationalizing shit. Area 51 is on the same wavelength as a man on the moon. Talk to me about some real shit. How about all this time, all those aliens was coming from the damn ocean water? When I peeped dehydrated stingrays and fucking dehydrated jellyfish, they look like aliens. I said, these niggas been tricking us all along. When you go look at an embryo into a fetus, and you look at a dried out fetus, it looks like an alien. I said, are you telling me all along? How do you know that all along when they're up there talking about it, they didn't found aliens? It's just motherfuckers from the water. I remember hearing the story of this man saying they were digging underground and it was a horrid smell that came out from under the earth, and there were gooks and goblins. Anything with moisture and darkness, you're going to get a gook and a goblin, and it's going to smell. How do I know that person didn't hit the damn sewer? And because our feces and blood and period blood and DNA and microbes and all of that shit, it create mutants. You don't think that can be true? It is true, and they know it. Maybe that horrid smell was feces, and all of the and then all of our DNA connected together. They know what the fuck feces, urine, and blood can make. And then you feed it with food. Then you wonder why them rats are so fucking big. But maybe them rats are so fucking big in New York and shit because you have all those third world people that bring that shit. It's on the same lines of them bringing the alligators and crocodiles from certain countries into the Americas. Because the new type of rats, those are different. They don't even look like cats, they look like dogs. Start to study the sea and the sea animals. And you will see a lot of things that look like aliens and monsters and goblins. Start studying the sewers and what grows and the heartbeats. And how some mutants breathe. Allegedly, they didn't found pyramids in Kentucky. I guess that's why it flooded, huh? Allegedly, they cleared out a forest or something, allegedly. And it's a good one. There's hella pyramids here in the United States. What the fuck you're talking about? But isn't it weird that you don't have pyramids in Africa like that? The pyramids are in America, into Mexico, into Central and South America. But very few outside of here. Anyways, I believe until further notice, Black history should be canceled until we decide if Jayne Mansfield is a fucking black woman. I've been studying that woman since somebody presented her to me, and I thought I was tripping. I said, that is a black woman. The fuck is she? She a passer? I know black women that look like her. I know biracial, I'm going to say black women that look like her. Right? Jayne Mansfield. What's her name's mama from Law and Order? Olivia? I'm calling by her. Or Mariska? So I was studying her, right? And the story is that Mariska was one of the children, or in the back seat sleep when the car accident happened. That car accident was such a Hollywood story. So I seen the pictures and I seen it live in the archives. I said, bitch, ain't nobody live that. Ain't nobody live that. I mean, I don't know what the fuck was going on with that accident. It was debris and garbage everywhere. It was alcohol bottles. It was something that looked like a dog, and his head was decapitated. And I was like, is that a dog or a pig? Then I started thinking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, when that dog, this is the one for San Francisco, when it was done in what's his name, with Sutherland, and the dog come running out and they had a human face, bitch. I said, what the fuck is that? I was like, that is a ritual, and it is a horrific ritual. Was it Haggerty or whatever? Mariska's father, his head was gone. Her head was gone. It was body parts everywhere. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I said, ain't no kids was in that car. Because when you see it live, there wasn't any kids pulled out of the vehicle. And that vehicle was fucked up. I said, what hit it? What was that? What in the world, right? So then they end up going to her house, and when they went to her house was a total altar. As they called her, the sex pot, Jayne Mansfield. And I said, this was a whole prostitute, huh? Something is very off about her and her energies. And anytime during that time of the 60s, and I peeped that you up in that damn Italy, I know you up to no good. Anyway, let me get back over here. And she was into, of course, the trans world. She loved going to also those the beauty contests for the trans people. And it was a lot of that going on in Hollywood. I'm over there talking shit about New York, man. Shit. Los Angeles had that shit on lock. Or Hollywood, they would say, I told you about them people. Anyway, so then they brought out her 2 sons. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck? And they were like, yes, and her 2 sons was in the back of the car, and they don't remember anything about the accident. I said, 2 sons, where's the daughter? I was sitting there waiting for them to bring the daughter out, Mariska. And I'm like, wait a minute, bitch. It's only 2 sons. Is Mariska that boy? I always knew she kind of looked like a dude, allegedly. So I'm sitting up there waiting for the baby to come out. So then they showed old family reels, because apparently they're alleging that she had other children before Mariska, of course, right? But they didn't mention these other 2 kids. I mean, I guess they're girls, I don't know. But according to this, she was with Mariska's father. So you would automatically bring out the daughter. But the way that they created it was like she only had those 2 sons. And it was catered around the two sons. And then she had a nanny. So I'm thinking, I said, well, maybe the nanny gonna bring the baby out. There was no baby. I said, bitch, but what happened to those boys after? Because apparently they after the mother's death, they got to stay home. I mean, stay in the mansion or whatever. And he was saying in due time they will forget the accident. Wait a minute, what's happening here? Then where is, this is Mariska. Mariska has technically, if you're telling me, then that means there were 3 kids in the back seat of that vehicle. Not 2, but 3. But they only mentioned the boys. Only the 2 boys were in the back seat of that vehicle. No baby. No Mariska. So what made up story are they giving us? See, AI has been around before we even understood it. That's why, until further notice, we need to put our history right on the motherfucking shelf, because AI has been around forever. Knight Rider, the show Knight Rider in the 80s was your first fucking Tesla and AI and talking vehicle. Stop playing with us. The 80s, go back to the 80s, start looking at a lot of those shows and movies, and they was giving us forewarning. And fucking Knight Rider is fucking Tesla. The show Knight Rider. What's his name? With Hasselhoff, who was famous across the seas. But I'm just talking here. Like, what the fuck is in front of us, right? They've been lying to us forever. AI have been around longer than what you think. That's real shit. They've been faking us out for a very long time. I was minding my business being a girl from San Francisco and a native from San Francisco, and they had that goddamn Super Bowl. And I was just like, I don't feel like talking about all that bullshit, right? But when there's confusion, there's a lie. And I'm wrapped up in the confusion. As a spiritualist, I'm confused. So let me look at some things, right? Everybody else is going to look at the calculations, and this means this, and the number 8 this, and da-da-da-da. And they have it here, and they have it there. But no, I want to think like white people. The Patriots and the Seahawks. West Coast, East Coast. Ports. East Coast, New England brought in all those white immigrants. So West Coast port, what did you bring in? Who came in over here and who came in through Canada? I was in discussion because the history of the West Coast is indigenous. We're still wondering who in the fuck was up in Canada. And just parts of Canada you might as well consider is the West Coast. Then I got tied up in something. In Seattle, like in between, there's Port of Angeles. Then there's something, a city or whatever called Olympia, right? Isn't the Winter Olympics happening in Italy? Wait a minute here. Wait a minute. And the Olympics just opened up, and people making a big deal because there's ritual going on in Italy. Of course there's ritual going on in Italy. But I'm like, Seahawk. See what? Who came here by the sea? How, what the fuck infiltrated California and took out all the indigenous people? Then you have, they keep saying San Francisco. It's in San, no, it's not. It's in fucking South Bay. It's in, what is it? San Carlos, wherever, but all I know is in the South Bay. Wherever Levi Stadium. It's not in San Francisco. Remember, I talked about Candlestick Park in the history and where Candlestick Park is located, which is in the hood near Double Rock and all of that. And when the games and everything would be popping off, the people would make their money. And they took income and business and fucked that all up. And took there were small business owners over there, and they was making money. Because in reality, where the Warriors basketball energy is, they could have put the stadium there. As they were thinking about whatever's going on with Candlestick, they could have been working on that right there. Santa Clara. And isn't that, and I think Santa Clara is where that rapper girl Sweetie comes from. So they put it over there with the Indians. That's like 45 minutes, what, an hour? Or am I doing too much from San Francisco? Right? All I know is in the South Bay. Levi Stadium. The new mayor of San Francisco, he's a descendant of Levi. Of Levi Strauss. Levi Strauss is connected to the gold rush. But the funny thing is that in California, it's also, well, the West Coast is also diamonds and minerals. Not only gold. They told us that. And remember, the gold rush financed the Civil War. And remember, the old tag of Levi Strauss used to have the gold, was it the gold miners, I think with like a flogger or a whip, I think whipping black people on something with donkeys. That was the original tag. What the fuck is going on here? So they're both American. So I'm thinking, okay, so what's coming? So what came into America? What immigrants came into America at the top of Seattle? What came in New England? Since we're talking about immigration, what am I really looking at here? I don't care about all that rest of that shit. Then again, then it's in between again Olympia. Because some of you people will believe that when they brought in the Asians into the Americas, it came in through New England. No, it would come in through Canada into Seattle. Just like Russians will come in through Canada and Seattle into the West Coast. Australians, West Coast. Indigenous people coming out of Canada into the West Coast, into Utah, Idaho, Montana, into Louisiana. You got to follow the trails. And they were using the Chinese as slaves. During the gold rush, there were hella Chinese being enslaved. And they did not look like these hybrids. They looked like they were melanated. They were chocolate. They wasn't even my complexion. They were dark skinned. And you will see a lot of that, especially in the West Coast in California, especially in the Bay Area, when you start to look at old pictures. Very interesting connections here. Right? Then it's very interesting before that, the sacrifices that was going on in the black communities. Just like that one right there in Fillmore, the one that I know that was orchestrated to happen. And talk about that they arrested 2 young people. So who hired them? Because Fillmore is not that far from downtown. I said, I know this is connected to what's about to come on with that damn Super Bowl. And then you had everybody speaking out and all that shit. What do you talk about? There's been shootings in Fillmore. Nobody been talking about it. They didn't give a fuck. Right? Then we have this Super Bowl coming, but then there's a whole strike in San Francisco with the Unified School District, with monies and funds, teachers underpaid. Teachers don't know how to deal with these immigrant students popping in. Living wages are low. They don't know how to handle kids in special education, meaning these new type of kids that's going to be coming in and have been in there, ADHD, behavioral problems. They don't even have special ed anymore. They mix in kids who are dyslexic and put them in regular classes. Then the kids who have dyslexia don't get to learn as well, so they put them in like at a smaller table. And I peeped that shit when my son was in school, because he had to take up for his friend who had dyslexia because the teacher called her dumb. Schools are not equipped to handle these new kids, so the kids end up getting kicked out of a school and have to go way somewhere else to a different school because that school don't have the accommodations. So I'm like, okay, so that means this Super Bowl should bring in enough money to finance whatever's going on with the Unified School District, right? So I'm still looking. I'm still trying to understand shit. They made a big deal about these famous people being in San Francisco. I said, San Francisco's don't give a fuck about that shit. What is the Super Bowl? Is that the Met Gala now? I knew the Super Bowl was going to be on Wackola when I seen Cardi B walk out in high heels. I said, oh, that bitch. You don't walk no streets of San Francisco with no fucking high heels on. Let alone on a kind of look like on a slanted heel. The fuck? I said, this shit gonna be whack. She got on high ass heels. And is that her? She looked extra tall. I said, and to myself, I said, oh, I said, and the game is so real. Astral switching. Astral switching is when they switch up zodiacs and start to do borrowing and caring and crossing out energies to get to a certain astrology or zodiac. Astral switching. I said, oh, they didn't switch her to a Virgo. Okay. So she's the new Beyonce. So we are about to get plummeted with non-rapping, meaning we're going to be missing out on talented talent. So they're Beyonce. They're doing a Beyonce move, where now Beyonce has been crossed out. Now Cardi B is in her place. So they're going to keep pushing Cardi B in front of us, and we're not going to get to see any other energies come in as in talent, which is plenty out there. So that means we have to X out the indie world and go Babylon. So indie is here, but Babylon is underneath indie. So therefore, instead of somebody saying they're an indie artist, they got to really say they're a Babylon artist and go underground. And that means the people have to denounce that bullshit. I said, Cardi B must be really in big trouble because she should have been deported. Is she an American? So again, they astral swiped, as we call astral switching, zodiacs and switched out people. I was listening to the way Cardi B speaks. I said, she don't sound like her. Is that Beyonce in that get up? How do we respect a whole woman married to one man and had a baby by a whole other nigga? While she married to that nigga. Where are her kids? I would be judged if I kept leaving my kids. I know what that is. I'd be judged like fucks. What kind of spell work is that? You teaching women to say, fuck your kids, I'm gonna go hang out. Go be a mom. It's like Tiana Taylor. Don't let that fool you. Them kids are in distress. She has them too much on the dance floor. You guys assume she's just such a great mother. Hell no. That body tells you what mom she is. She's like a snake. Is that a mom's body? Does that look like that gave birth? That's why y'all out here getting plastic surgery looking like linebackers. Black women out here looking like football players. I was wondering when I was looking at that body. I said, I knew that body looked familiar to me. Not only trans men, but it looked like a fucking football player. These BBLs and the way your body's so tight and the way you looking. Bottom half of your body is a whole football player. Go and do the compare and contrast. It's not even a natural black woman's body. Black women ass have jiggle, have energy to it. Them plastic asses don't have shit. And that's the way Cardi B body looked. Looked like a football player. Just like Tiana Taylor body looked like a football player. I didn't know if she was Jerry Rice or what. Because I said, dang, her body looked like Jerry Rice from the 49ers. Y'all out here talking about she fit. That's not fit. That's a football body. That's fucking Jerry Rice. I was researching Jane Fonda and her workouts. And recently, Jane Fonda was talking about going digital because old school people have been requesting that she digitize her Jane Fonda workouts. And she was talking about that she created it due to women not being in the gym back in the day. Women didn't go to the gym. It was a man thing. But when you go back and look at her exercises, it was aerobics and a different type of workout. And the women's bodies look different. I said, damn, how come in these gyms they don't do aerobics? That's better than Zumba. That's better than yoga. That's a different energy. I'm not going to sit out here and argue with you muscle-bound women because y'all got caught up with the fad and trend. I didn't went to the left. But that's spell work within itself. Stop basing yourself being a mother on these fucking celebrities and famous people. They're bad moms. They're not good moms. They're bad moms. Rihanna's a bad mom. It's your fucking kids. I can't go anywhere without mine. Fucks. I could barely use the bathroom. What the hell? Shit, if they don't see me in my room, Mama! If I leave the house, where you at? God damn. Then I seen all these celebrities. I said, what is this shit? And then I came to the conclusion, they all autistic. Jay-Z is autistic. Cardi B is autistic. Travis Scott has ADHD, behavioral problems, and he's very volatile. And it seems like 90% of these entertainers they are autistic. Their behaviors. Then it was this big ass crew that looked like they didn't got off the double Dutch bus, And they all came in at the same time. And I think these people are not the real entertainers. I don't know what's up with Jamie Foxx. I don't know. Apparently DiCaprio had a party. When did DiCaprio start covering his face up? Then where in the fuck is DiCaprio? DiCaprio don't give a fuck. He's like that. He will walk with his face shown. It was shit that's not making sense. It's either they all had on sunglasses or their faces were covered, or they had something big to kind of shadow their face. I was looking at Gavin Newsom. He looked unhappy. And I said, that's weird. Why is the governor separate from the mayor of San Francisco and the owners of the team? Very interesting shit. Everybody was weird. I said, these are not no real motherfuckers. They autistic and they got fake people. I was looking at Drewski. I said, Drewski, he's autistic. Special needs. And I'm being real nice with autistic. These people are downright special needs. And I said, are most entertainers special needs? Yeah. They all look like they are under guardianship. It's like everybody that showed up is under guardianship. And that Kraft dude, isn't that Kraft, whatever his name is, isn't he the one that would be at those white parties and be under Cardi B and Cardi B be under him? The fuck is this? What's happening? I almost thought he was Ralph Lauren. I said, what the hell Ralph Lauren doing there? I knew that shit was going to be whack. I knew when San Francisco flooded so badly, I said, oh, there's going to be some energies. Then you had the black people talking about stripper bowl. Too Short, Gilly the Kid, and Ray J. I said, that's not Ray J. What's here? What the fuck? Nigga, aren't you dying? And Gilly the Kid, he wasn't fooling anybody. He was looking for niggas. He was bored. No, they hid the niggas. They hid the homeless. He was trying to be nosy in that tenderloin. They hit him. They hit him like the pandemic. He tried to do too much, but he's seen some naked people at the Embarcadero riding their bikes. It's not far-fetched, but I said, I don't think that to be true. A lot of them people are prudes in San Francisco. Those aren't the real San Franciscans that you get the real shit. And I kept peeping his energy. I said, he looking for straight niggas. He wanted to ride out in the hood. I said, they probably blocked him and said, you can only be in this perimeter. There was a time that you could just drive up in the hood and niggas will know who you are and fuck with you. He was bored. I don't blame him. He was bored as fuck. I hope he went to Oakland. But shit, Oakland's changed a lot too, but he would have had a better energy in Oakland. Maybe I think that's where the stripper bowl. And I said, what stripper shit is going on in Oakland? They was even trying to block the prostitutes in Oakland, talking about don't come to International. You know, International. I think International in Oakland is kind of like a little baby Figueroa, right? I said, damn, they don't want them hoes to get money. How come they can't get good money? And how come the hoes can't come to San Francisco from Oakland? Shit, they want to make money. They had a big bust in Los Angeles, busting all the hoes and shit and their pimps. They didn't want them to come to San Francisco. They didn't want them in Santa Clara, so we're going to bust these hoes in L.A. and we're going to stop this shit in Oakland because we want them Ukrainian and Russian bitches to make money. I think all the hoes should have made money that night. For them days. The gay boys did. Vendors couldn't make money. They had that high ass food going on. What kind of spell work is that? They didn't got all the vendors. The vendors couldn't even be at the Levi Stadium. They went and pushed them out. That an organization had to come in and kind of supplement. Do you know how much money that is? That's why I talk about Candlestick Park, because that's the kind of stuff that was going on in Candlestick Park. They rushed them. They said, get the fuck up out of here. You ain't making any money. So they saying you hoes can't make money. You vendors can't make money. Because we're going to have this shit orchestrated. They talking about NFL, something NFL, when the NFL comes, they own all of this. It's that weird shit that like that Essence, how they messed up small businesses can't make money during the Essence Festival. Then we have the halftime show. Bad Bunny. Until further notice, Black History is canceled. Why? What was all them white people doing there? Bad Bunny is a white Puerto Rican. Matter of fact, I don't think that was Bad Bunny. Because the original Bad Bunny didn't look like that. Some of you will say plastic surgery. Who is that? And why did he win a Grammy? I was quite disgusted. That wasn't Afro-Caribbean. That wasn't Puerto Rican music. They would have been, what is it called, ringtone? They would have been doing better with that. I'm like, am I confused? My sons come and talk and playing his music. Talking about, yeah. I said, that sounds horrible. Oh, you're just a hater. Oh. I said, I've heard better. I said, do I need to give you some real shit, real salsa music or whatever that mess was supposed to be? I mean, I'm trying to understand here. What's that? My son was like, he won a Grammy. What does that mean? I said, and this is supposed to be performing? How the spiritual constituents hit me up talking about, look at it. I was like, oh boy. So I had to look at it. I'm confused. I seen that white Puerto Rican. I seen them white Puerto Ricans. Then I'm assuming, I guess Cardi B was in it, but she's Dominican. And I thought Puerto Ricans and Dominicans are at odds with each other. And then I started having questions. Then I started saying, how come no Puerto Ricans know his family? Because you know Puerto Ricans gossip like a motherfucker and they will tell your business. And don't let them be with no Cubans. They'll really get it cracked. I don't know who's worse, Cubans or Puerto Ricans. And they both be running their fucking mouth. And so I said, well, how come no Puerto Ricans is like saying, yeah, I know his mama, this and that, da-da-da-da. Nobody's saying that they know his family. I don't know what in a whitewash in a fuck is a Bad Bunny. And what the fuck is Lady Gaga doing there? And you know she's considered a person of color, right? Because she's Italian. Well, we don't know she's Italian. We don't know if this woman is Slavic or Italian. So we for giggles and laugh, we're going to say she's Italian. So she's a person of color. I said, is she there because she's a person of color? Then I was looking at the people who were the choreography and the dance. I said, ooh, that's very whitewashed. Then Ricky Martin pops up. I said, they should have had that damn Menudo. If they just would have had Menudo. But you know, Ricky Martin in trouble. And then he didn't look like Ricky Martin. I've seen Ricky Martin in concert with that cute ass Julio Iglesias son. I don't know what's going on with Ricky Martin and his voice and his energy, but ever since they got him for that pedophilia shit of his nephew, it's just been, he been in jail ever since. Then I'm going to assume, but what was very interesting, the color scheme was a cream. That's very interesting. And then I understand that it was supposed to emulate like a football shoulders, you know, with the pads, but something else seemed underneath that. And then of course, you know, I got that it was supposed to have been sugar canes. I said, there's something up about all this. And did you know that them trees can move, them sugar cane, whatever? The props, that was part of the set design, did you know? Then it was pre-recorded. So we're getting a different effect than what is going on live. Huh? That's a fake history. That whole energy that we seen, and then they said it was historic. Talk about America, but Puerto Rico, you done went through some things. Then in my head, I'm thinking Africa, indigenous people who, wait a minute, what? The original people of Puerto Rico were melanated. Where did they go? There wasn't any energy. I was almost like, why didn't they just bring the Santeria people out? I wanted something. I said, well, all of the Puerto Rican entertainers. Then I started to get nostalgic. And I said, we need to go back to the 90s Puerto Rican, the 70s Puerto Rican, the 60s Puerto Rican, the 80s Puerto Rican. Something fell off. I started thinking about DLG. I said, they should have had DLG on there. You guys look up DLG, the Puerto Rican energy. I think the leads, isn't the lead singer, this ain't Dunbar, I'm not sure. Isn't he like Jamaican and Puerto Rican or something? Something like that, I don't know. I said, with all the fucking, this man is horrible. So what type of spell work is going on here? Now I understand why he went gay. And did y'all see that scene by the car with the two gay guys up on each other? Notice when they got into the brown, doesn't that represent feces? See, I thought tobacco. I said, oh, that's feces. Because it went, because then the wind, because everything changed. The energies changed. Then the whole married thing. Married, what? happening? I'm sorry, I didn't get that part. I'm not going to even play games. Married to what? Don't worry, somebody going to decode that shit. I said, in that case, then why didn't they just come out with kind of indigenous energy? No, it didn't make sense. Lady Gaga didn't make sense. The Ricky Martin didn't make sense. I think the Cardi B energy, and none of it made sense. No, it did not. It just kept pushing immigration.
Okay.
Oh, you going early?
Yeah, I'm going to go early so I can get some rest before I go.
Oh, okay. Bye. I believe they were trying to make a point that the ritualistic energies overrode the point of immigration. And this is bullshit because my sons believe this immigration is the civil rights movement. It's confusion. And my son brought up to me Kid Rock, talking about Kid Rock is a pedophile. I said, oh, really? Until I understood that. Then he mentioned to me that the Kid Rock energy did their own halftime show. I guess it was called the All American halftime show. So I looked at that. I enjoyed that rather than that. Y'all should have been looking at that. So I said, so black people pulled out of this when your black asses should have been in it. And you have white people doing country music, which they're immigrants, but your indigenous people created the shit and they took it just like blues and everything else. Y'all black asses should have been over there. So some of y'all got bullied not to be in the All American halftime show. That was a good show. I don't give a fuck about no Charlie Kirk because you know they all into it. Because you know, allegedly Charlie Kirk didn't leave shit to that wife of his. And now she lying talking about those are not his kids and all that weird shit because apparently she not getting nothing. They said Candace Owens is going to make more money than her. So that's a whole nigga mess there. But Charlie Kirk and his wife. So I'm not tripping off that Charlie Kirk shit because I know that's a whole hoax and bullshit. But the All American halftime show, that was a good show. I don't know what that other shit was at the Super Bowl. I'm not going to even sit up here and play with you like that. That shit, All American, makes sense. That I understood the spell work. The spell work over there at the halftime show, it was all over the place. It didn't make sense. And I believe it didn't make sense because, one, he was singing in Spanish. And I don't understand, as much as he's been in America and he's in Puerto Rico, how you don't know English, man? That didn't look right. None of it looked right. He didn't even look right. The energy was off. There wasn't any spirit and there's no soul. That's why the new energies of kids, especially Gen Zs, don't have a soul. There's nothing feeding into them anymore. They don't have souls. The music doesn't have soul. Art doesn't have a soul to it. It's just nothing but, it's just a host. It's hosting. But it's no soul. It's just spewing out anything. No energy, no frequency. There's no vibe to it. There's no soul to it. It's trying to push a political point to create a revolution of a new history. We're sitting up here watching a fake history because we don't even understand. Again, where in the hell did the Puerto Ricans go, the real Puerto Ricans? The music had no soul to it, no energy, no frequency. I knew when Jennifer Lopez came about that the Puerto Rican energy lost its soul. So now they're creating a Latino Caribbean energy. Now is the Latino effect. Nothing wrong with it. It's just confusion. But it deletes and omits the melanated black people in it. It's showing us the white ones. They're acting as if the African culture, the indigenous black culture, did not contribute to that and create it for what it is. That's what. Then they omitting and eliminating the Holocaust, the slavery of it. What are you talking about? Wait a minute, what? It's not making sense. I don't have shit to say about it because it's nothing to decode. It was dumb and it was soulless. And it was spell work. And it was spell work to make me believe that Bad Bunny is the shit. That's how they're using social media. They're creating these horrifying artists and then pushing them out, giving them awards, and then telling us they're great, and then telling us this was historic. To push a plan. I don't got time for that. And the Super Bowl ain't nothing now. It's just whack. I don't care about no fucking celebrities and all that shit. You care about the football. Cardi B is not supposed to outshine the football player that's playing. When does the wife, but damn, not even a wife, just a girlfriend. These men used to have wives. That's a bad representation. That's bad for character and image. For that football player to have a baby by a woman who was already married. And she impregnated herself. What? I don't care. I'm judging. I'm judging. And of course, anything done at Levi's Stadium has lost its soul. The real soul was Candlestick Park in San Francisco. That's it. That's all. And I'm standing on it. It lost its life, its luster. And the mayor was wrong. The wrong mayor. I think San Francisco would have been popping if it was Gavin Newsom, Willie Brown, even London Breed. This was, I didn't see London Breed. This would have been a time for London Breed, because you know that bitch liked to party. The old mayor of San Francisco, she liked to party. Gilly the Kid would have no problems. She would have kept that tenderloin going and everything else. Gavin Newsom know them spots. That's why he always getting caught up in that tenderloin, talking about he's just walking around to see what's going on. What motel did they to get you out of, allegedly? I'm just kidding. I'm crazy. San Francisco used to have different type of mayors and shit. This mayor is too corporate directed. But of course, there's other people involved. San Francisco been and lost itself. But I knew it was going to crap around 2015. And then when that Twitter building arrived, and you had new destinations coming in, and then in the Tenderloin and shit like that, you had these weird Latino people that showed up selling dope and shit. I knew San Francisco was. I said, Then over there in Hunters Point, them projects are infested with Mexicans that call themselves Northaniels and shit, or whatever they call themselves. I said, San Francisco is overly gentrified. And even the older people that were there, they're gone. Even the white people that were there, they're gone. The new people and even the new generation, they don't have a soul anymore. There's no soul. Anyway. They're out here talking about this Governor Westmore. They didn't blocked him from going to some kind of governor's chair luncheon. I said, whoever is running the government, they whack as fuck. And why they keep using black people? They have you distracted with that craziness, talking about Trump said that Obama and his wife or his or whatever are primates. I said, he didn't do that. I'm not even going for that. He didn't do this shit. Because we all know that white people look like primates. So I don't even know why. That's somebody else being stereotypical. And Obama, he's not even black. His mama white. We sat up and pushed in a damn immigrant. Elected an immigrant in office. I told you that all the presidents are fucking immigrants or come from households of immigrants. They were showing an energy of Mitch McConnell. They didn't give him a life serum. That ain't Mitch McConnell. That man been dead. And what are we going to do with Maxine Waters? She has dementia already. They just keep trying to Dianne Feinstein all these people. God damn it. Jeez. Somebody in my comments was stating that when I was talking about Delaware and the Irish and the 40 acres, that shady shit, they were talking about, yes, but the original Irish were pygmies. You're absolutely right. They were pygmies. Until they kidnapped them from their original country, then housed them on the plantation called Africa. Because remember, the Lord of the Rings and Leprechauns is all based around the pygmies. Because we understand the pygmies are some magical motherfuckers. The leprechaun energy ain't got shit to do with no fucking white Irish. What's it called? Lucky Charms? Lucky Charms is based off of the pygmies. Was it Magically Delicious? Because they magical. Turmeric, they're lying talk about that they come from South Asia or whatever. No. I don't know how the pygmies did it, but it's them. That's their energy. That's why I said, until further notice, Black history needs to be canceled. I was telling the spiritual constituents, I said, you know, that 1906 earthquake is very suspicious. San Francisco. I said, it wiped out a whole city. And she said, but what was there before it? I said, it's that part. I'm telling you, these people be wiping out people and talking about it's an earthquake, it's a fire, it's a flood. As I was talking about astral switching, meaning zodiac switching, somebody brought to my attention and was talking about Rihanna to me. And that person said, Rihanna retarded. I said, what? He said, peeper. She reminds me, and it's the way he explained it, but just like a hostile person. And he said, that's why she went upside Chris Brown's head. Man, I had to go back and look at her. So I had mentioned it to a spiritual constituent, and she kind of looked at me, and she was just like, I don't want to see it, but I see it. I said, see what I'm talking about? These people with special needs in this industry. Kelly Rowland, you telling me she don't seem autistic? Yes, she does. Even Method Man. You know, they in that movie together. Or whatever. There's this young lady, and is her name? Oh, let me see if I can find it. Okay, her name is Morgan Janae, and she's on Instagram. Just look it up, Morgan Janae. She admittedly, or whoever is pushing her, she admits that she's autistic. She's scary because the little girl could sing, but then I felt uncomfortable. But when I peeped Rihanna, I told somebody, I said, Rihanna is a Pisces with a Taurus. I said, Tauruses don't fuck around with no Pisces. I said, on Rihanna, I'm talking to a spiritual constituent. I said, on Rihanna, they did an astral shifting where they switch out the zodiacs. Now, this is different in moving the zodiacs around. This is literally switching and shifting it to cater to another person's energy. That's why we have to be careful of zodiacs and all of this stuff, because it could be used to soul mount an image. The funny thing is that there are two different energies between, because I told you that Rihanna is the energies of a Cancer. That's what they mounted on that girl, because I could tell by her total energies. However, people sleep on Pisces being violent. They're violent. Cancers just don't go upside your head just to go upside your head. They go upside your head because you need to get bopped the fuck up. In our heads. But a Pisces will whoop your ass. And you be like, why did you hit me? Because they felt like it. Pisces are handlers. I thought you knew. And when you're out of control, they will beat the fuck out of you. We're going to put that on the shelf for another day. The same place where Aquarius is. Just to go back to the Super Bowl real quick, man, you know Jay-Z was overly stimulated, right? That he was overly stimulated. When the paparazzi man was trying to talk to him, he got overstimulated. I said, Lord. As we talk about Cardi B, I had a spiritual constituent point something out to me. He said, Tyler Perry. He said, doesn't Tyler Perry look like a Dominican? I said, what? Not to go look. I said, he sure does. I said, but I know people that say that they know. But do they know? He said, he looked like a whole Latino, huh? I said, he sure does. And he said, now go look at Medea. He said, now go compare Medea to Dominican grandmothers. I went back and I looked. I said, fuck yeah. Then there's a whole alleged high priestess in, I believe, is it Greek culture, called Medea. And then he said, remember when Cardi B, I guess she did a Saturday Night Live skit and she played an elder or whatever. And he said, don't they look a... I said, all these motherfuckers are third world and Spanish and shit. Just like I had to think about it, how come they have miles or brought out Kevin Gates, who's Puerto Rican, with fucking Bad Bunny? How they... And since they had all the Latinos out, why didn't they just have Pitbull out there? He would have took the show. He would have... Everybody know who he is. For real, for real. I'm just talking. Yeah, Kevin Gates, he's supposed to be Puerto Rican, but he be pretending. Just like I didn't know what's her name? That young M.A. I didn't know. I thought she was just Louisiana. And then they talk about she Latina. I said, bitch, do you know how many Latinos out here in the business? And a lot of Puerto Ricans they could have had up there. I didn't went back because I'm going around in circles because there's so much shit. That's why I got on this wig. Until further notice, we have to put fucking the Black history on the shelf. It has to be canceled because we have people perpetrating as indigenous Black people, and they're not. Just like that weird shit in Florida with the lizards, allegedly freezing them. They're not freezing up. They're killing them and eating them. They out here talking about they making curry lizards. Who and what culture is here in America eating lizards and hiring white people? And you know that lizard shit is connected to the Kabbalah energy. The fuck? Who out here eating lizard meat? That they over there in Florida harming the lizards? Because you know I thought that was Ellen DeGeneres and them. I said, oh Lord, they didn't fell out the tree. You heard about the damn Indian Sikh gang? The motorcycle gang selling dope, selling guns, grenades. They're in Stockton and Lodi or whatever. Shit, Gilly the Kid didn't have a good time in San Francisco because now San Francisco been taken over by Indians. The Bay Area, period. Now you have Sikh gangs. Stop playing. This is the confusion we're in, right? We have histories intersecting each other. Now all of a sudden, now you hearing about the Japanese that set up and imprisoned Filipinos back in the day and killed the babies and crushed the babies' head. And I said, damn, that sounds very familiar. I said, so again, the Holocaust was just a prototype for other countries, just like that Leopold effect, to harm other people. And do the same type of spell work. I don't know what's up with the Japanese people. I believe that they're honorary. And I believe that they've been infiltrated by the white culture that causes them to be volatile, because the Japanese are involved with a whole lot of vicious ass testing. And then they are Republicans. And I remember there was a certain energy that they couldn't vote for Obama or something like that. But there's something about that Japanese energy that's fucked up. But I believe it's because they mixed with the other hybrids. But the Japanese have went into so many countries harming people, from Brazil. They went into Brazil cutting up. They went into Africa cutting up. They went into Caribbean Islands cutting up. They went into the Philippines cutting up. What is up? Is that why the Chinese don't like them? I mean, I don't know. There's something to it. Something to it. Right? So earlier I was talking about white people and striking them. I was listening to and I think the woman's name is Teresa Alme, and she's the creator of FBA, Foundational Black Americans. And she wrote a book. And then I said to myself, did Tariq Nasheed steal this woman's identity? And she has a book of all of the FBA. Now I'm going to use the word because now I see it's a black woman. Foundational Black, meaning Black Americans here in America, the indigenous Americans who created the world. I said, these immigrant white people are uncivilized. They didn't create anything. She's not talking about immigrants coming in. She's talking about foundation here, indigenous. Because we got to be careful. When I understood the tricycle was invented and was invented by a black man, I said that fits to before Civil War, Brooklyn, New York. Before the Civil War, it was a whole, it was in, not industrial, but it was a city. It had trains, it had tricycles. You seen black people. This was before the Civil War. That shows that we had life. We were already aristocrats and elitists before these white people came in and even harmed us and did shit. And we already had cities. When I heard this silliness about back in the alleged Jim Crow era that black people couldn't eat vanilla ice cream, I was appalled because white people didn't want them to eat vanilla ice cream, but they can eat it on Sundays. The fuck is that? And you telling me that's not a psychosis? All these inventions were not the textile industry was ran by our ancestors who understood the energies of cotton and dyes. They lied to us and say the dyes came from India, but it didn't. It was natural resources here and in the Americas. And especially if you're going to be in the fashion industry, the first thing you should be studying is the agriculture of black people, and then lead into textiles, into first the grains, the fibers. Understand the grains, understand the energies first from the root. Understand the original natural resources that were here. And then now understand when we did get other energies come to America, how they brought hemp. Because remember, it turns into, before it's, creating into a fiber, what was the origins? That's why Tuskegee was so important. Regardless of who, what, where, and why, and who invested in it, it's the fact that we understood about agriculture and the connections and the science. Chemistry, all of that. The crack game showed you that we understood chemistry. Allegedly. The fuck is going on? I was listening to something. They were talking about Carolyn Franklin, Aretha Franklin's sister. I think it's called Hoochie Tales or whatever. And she was saying that Carolyn Franklin, of course, was the energies behind Aretha Franklin, was a whole lesbian. I said, bitch. And so anyway, she did the song Ain't No Way. And allegedly insinuated that she was dating Sissy Houston. I said, bitch. But the thing that really got me was the song. I said, how many of these songs had an undertone? So that's a whole lesbian song? Then I got a little suspicious. I had to go back to Roberta Flack. And the first time I saw your face, go listen to that eerie ass song. And it made me think, damn, is she talking about a woman? Because it's the words and the feeling. I said, it sounds like she's about a woman. Make you go back and listen to all these old school songs. But I wouldn't be surprised Cissy Houston was interesting. And maybe that's why she was cutting it with Aretha Franklin sometimes. That's why she got some of them notes. Some people believe that it was her singing Aretha Franklin songs. Somebody in my spiritual constituents forwarded over to me and asking me, is Nina Simone a man? I'm like, I don't know, because I heard Nina Simone was a hoe. That she was fucking a lot. Like, she was hypersexual, so I don't know. I'll ask. They said the same thing about Donna Summer. And she's also, they was talking about she was hypersexual. She would do it to anything. That's why you got to go back and listen to, was it Love to Love You? I was like, we just talking, having a conversation. With these different frequencies out here. I was listening to something, they were talking about funerals. And we be out here talking about, I don't practice paganism. Did you know to understand the whole funeral energy industry is built off of paganism and its philosophies? And how come I just realized there's a difference between a casket and a fucking coffin? A casket only has 4 sides and a coffin has 6. And I said, damn it, that's why people use, when they use coffins and spell work. It's that energy, that number system, right? We was talking energies. Kidneys. When they sit up and tell you a kidney transplant, do you know that they don't take out the other kidney? They don't take out any kidneys. They add on a kidney, so you have 3 kidneys. Did you know that shit? What type of spell work is that? And do you understand that they can technically save your kidney that is still in use? Did y'all know that? Did you know that your kidney is like a watchdog over your blood pressure and stimulates the red blood cells and connected to the bone marrow? Did y'all understand in reality that every time you walk, drive, fly in each time zone, and as they call it, what, the lines of longitude, that you're in a fucking dimension? Like, from California to Colorado, I always feel once I hear Colorado, I'm in a fucking dimension. And then when I come back from wherever I'm at, I fly over Colorado again. I'm in another dimension. And they're just an hour ahead of California. It's a dimension, right? How can you do spell work properly if we don't have all the days and times together, and these Jesuits and Catholic people fucked up the time, right? Vernal equinox, right? How can we do spell work? How are we doing it in its proper form? You can't. Because they didn't took days away from us. They've taken numbers from us. They intentionally forced us into 12 when we should be in 13. And in the Bible, it shows us that we should be working with 3s and 13, not 12. Do you understand these people restructured life to fit what they want? Do you understand if you're a cannibal, you can't eat the brain or the spine, or you'll get a disease called Kuru? Do you understand if you eat the liver of a human, that's too much vitamin A? Doesn't it make sense to why some of these entertainers are crazy? Because they may have too much vitamin A? Do you understand the reason why they're down on alcohol? It's because they have so many stimulants and anxiety pills that it could cause people to die. That they want you on these medications, and the alcohol, if it mixed together, is like toxic. And then you don't know what the fuck they're putting in the alcohol now. But because they want people on all these micro dosages and stimulants or whatever, drugs, psychosis pills, the alcohol interacts in a toxic way. Do you understand now men are out here talking about stimulants, meaning dope, opiates, drugs, cocaine, causes men to cross-dress? Then are they putting estrogen and cocaine and crystal meth and drugs? You think they're putting that in it, that which causes them to cross-dress? That men are saying it causes them to cross-dress. Did you have a clue that chemistry and the understanding of chemistry and the vocabulary comes from Arabic? And that alcohol is really an Arabic word that means dark powder? And then later on in Christianity, it got associated with wine? Alcohol. So we have Arabic, Latin, English. The fuck? And we're not supposed to be confused out here? Then there's Latin, English, then American. And all of them over here to the left of me say we're dumb because we don't pronounce shit properly. The English say Americans are dumb because we don't pronounce shit properly. But the Latin energy, and I'm not talking about no Mexican shit, but the original Latin energy is important because that's like the foundation of everything. Did you have a clue that I was originally lowercase? And they just created a capital I because there was confusion? If you're going to use your social media to enhance your brain instead of looking at Bad Bunny dumbass. Because there's so much spell work going on out here in front of us. We have to get better understanding, because I have to understand, how can I do work when I have to understand numbers and how many days was eliminated? And there is a 1,000% difference between how the sun rises in the east and sets in the west and the median of it. This stuff is like very serious, and you can't fuck around and play with these type of games out here in the universe, because now I have to readjust and look at, hold on, wait a minute, how many days am I missing here? That means if you guys out here doing candle work, you doing it wrong. I'm still needing to understand, why are more gay men, and I'm going to say gay men who are in gay relationships or in trans relationship, why are those men attacking your wives and women who are pregnant and killing them and beating their ass? Control your man. And you know, I'm still stuck on the trans people taking their colon and connecting it as a vagina. That's a whole microbe of bacteria. I'm still stuck on that and still need to understand that part. Anyway, this is Wayward Renegade Witches Blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done.